Part 24. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 232. Sooner or later, if you stay alone with Yan Qingqing like this, something will happen. Yan Qingqing is not Wen Wen. This girl is incredibly beautiful and has long legs, but I can't feel much lust for her. Yan Hu is different. This woman, every gesture exudes an alluring aura and signals all the time. And you definitely can't sleep here, there's only one bed. After dinner, Han Qian suggested going downstairs for a walk or a drive, and asked Yan Qingqing to take him home. Yan Qingqing did not hold back, and went downstairs with her keys in her pajamas. Yan Qingqing listened to music and drove. Han Qian he stared at the rearview mirror and frowned. Gradually, Yan Qingqing turned off the music and smiled. What? Are you afraid that I will go to your house? With your brows furrowed like this, Han Qian, why are you different from a normal man? I'm just not horny. Stop in front and I'll go to the toilet. The motorcycle had been following them all the way. Yan Qingqing was driving very fast. If he was just along the way, he would have been left behind. Han Qian didn't want to involve Yan Qingqing. After parking, he quickly got off the car and walked towards a small road that was not dark. He took out his cell phone and sent a text message to Yan Qingqing, telling her to lock the car door because it was too dark in here. There were no street lights on the road in Huangdi village at night. It was so dark that you couldn't see anything. There were weeds on the left and right. After walking 2 miles inside, you entered this urban village. Han Qian took out a stick in the grass and continued to dig deeper. If he is just a kid who likes to ride motorcycles at night while racing, then he is overthinking it. If there are some guys with evil intentions who are planning to take advantage of him, he will also give himself a chance to resist. Gradually, the sound of motorcycles came from behind. Now it was certain that they were not the children of the racing gang. They would not choose this path. Han Qian turned around and held the wooden stick in his hand tightly. The motorcycle headlights shined directly into his eyes, and the dazzling light dazzled Han Qian's eyes so that he could not see anything. Han Qian raised the stick in his left hand. If he hit the wrong one, he would blame these 2 unlucky children for his misfortune. Bar. Boom. The wooden stick did not hit the car or anyone. Instead, it collided with a metal steel pipe. Han Qian was also repelled by the force. He accidentally stepped into a pit and fell to the ground. Han Qian didn't have time to think too much at this moment, because the motorcycle came over again. This was obviously aimed at him, and she wanted to hit him to death. When he got up, Han Qian pulled off the bandage hanging from his neck and held the wooden stick in both hands. When the motorcycle was less than 1 meter away, Han Qian turned sideways and swung the wooden stick in his hand with all his strength. The car overturned and people fell. Without even thinking about it, Han Qian rushed towards the 2 of them with a wooden stick. When the stick fell, he felt severe pain in his calf, and the stick in his hand also fell on the guy's helmet. It was 2 people, both wearing helmets to protect their heads. One of them held a steel pipe in his hand and whipped Han Qian on his calf. Han Qian limped back step by step. Without saying a word, he gradually retreated into the grass. The 2 guys got up and rushed towards Han Qian's grass. The performance of the steel pipe was indistinguishable. There are no street lights, no surveillance, and no one will pass by. It was the best place to commit the crime. Han Qian guessed it, and so did they. After the steel pipe was thrown out an unknown number of times, it collided with the wooden stick again. The guy holding the steel pipe was slightly stunned and shouted anxiously to his companions. Han Qian is here, shine a flashlight into his eyes. As you scolded me, my flashlight broke. I'm coming over. Another guy ran here with an old-fashioned flashlight in his hand. The steel pipe and the wooden stick collided again and again. The steel pipe was very conspicuous at night. Han Qian could see the shadow of the waving steel pipe. Suddenly, just when the light was gone, the wooden stick hit the head of the guy who was running over. At night, their vision was much worse than that of Han Qian when they wore helmets. When the stick fell, the guy holding the flashlight fell to the ground with a groan, and then a roar came from behind Han Qian. Han Qian, should I mess with you? Han Qian turned around and swung his stick away, then cursed back. I'll kill you and then go hum you again. Han Qian never said that he did not dare to kill. That was when he was forced to a certain extent. When the stick collided with the steel rod, a low roar came from behind. At this time, Han Qian had no time to turn around, and there was severe pain in the back of his head. Was kicked in the back, and Han Qian was also kicked in the chest when he fell forward. The successive blows made Han Qian unsteady on his feet and fell to the ground. Without thinking, Han Qian rolled into the grass. He was betting that these two guys couldn't see well with their helmets on. His bet was right, but he was careless. The headlights of the motorcycle turned on, and he was exposed to the sight of the two guys. Han Qian's back collar was already dyed red. Now that he was exposed, Han Qian no longer hid. He stood up despite the pain and touched a brick. The guy holding the steel pipe is not tall, about 1.7 meters, but the guy holding the flashlight is 1.9 meters tall. Both of them wear helmets and gloves on their heads. The man holding the steel pipe said with an evil smile. "Thief son, you are hiding. I'm your father." As soon as he finished speaking, Han Qian rushed forward with a brick in his hand. At this time, the guy with the flashlight shouted. "Hit him on the right shoulder." He had a gunshot wound to the shoulder. Han Qian turned around and rushed towards the tall guy. The guy with the steel pipe in his hand was not difficult to deal with. He had just taken 3 steps when his feet slipped and he was about to fall. Han Qian threw the brick and thought he didn't even want to touch the wooden stick at his feet. He stepped on this just now, grabbed the wooden stick and swung it at the guy who rushed over. Han Qian was a little disappointed that the brick did not smash the motorcycle headlight. Han Qian waved the stick randomly to prevent the guy holding the steel pipe from getting close, and roared at his companions to come quickly and deal with Han Qian. These two guys want Han Qian's life. Han Qian was wounded and fighting 1 against 2. The accumulated experience in fighting in the past 25 years allowed him to persist for 5 or 6 minutes without being knocked down. The wooden stick in his hand had been lost, and the steel pipe disappeared at the same time. Looking at the two guys in front of him, Han Qian was dressed roughly. "I was careless, but I didn't expect that there were 2 professionals who specialized in this kind of business." The 2 guys wearing helmets approached Han Qian step by step. Han Qian looked at the 2 and smiled, slowly straightened up and grinned. "2 grandsons, I might not be the one left here tonight." As soon as the words fell, there was only a click sound, and the motorcycle's headlights shattered, and they entered the darkness again. For a moment, the 2 gangsters were stunned. Han Qian had already started running, leaping high and putting his foot in the short man's arm. On the helmet, both of them reached the bottom at the same time. When the tall man rushed to help, a sharp roar came from behind. "You dare to hit my man!" After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 233. "You dare to hit my man!" There was endless anger in the roar. When the tall gangster turned around in response, he saw nothing. The millisecond before he felt the severe pain, he saw a blue 5-pointed star appearing in front of him, and then he felt like it was as if he had been hit by a car. His helmet was shattered, there was severe pain in his right cheek, and blood was flowing out of his nose. Yan Qingqing held a baseball bat in her hand and hit this guy in the face without leaving any strength. Han Qian was stunned when he saw this scene. Unsurprisingly, this guy's facial bones must have been cracked. The tall man covered his face and kept rolling on the ground, wailing without a sound. Yan Qingqing didn't even look at it. He didn't mean to be afraid and spoke to Han Qian. "Honey, pick up the guy and leave this guy to me." The baseball bat fell into Han Qian's hand. Without hesitation, Han Qian swung the stick and hit the forearm of the guy who was adjusting his helmet sight with both hands. When the stick fell, Han Qian raised the stick and started to fight back. He didn't hit his head because he was afraid of beating the guy to death. Seeing that the guy on the ground had no ability to resist, Han Qian breathed a sigh of relief. When he turned to look at Yan Qingqing, Han Qian rushed forward. The woman was riding on the tall man with a stone in her hand, and she dropped the stone on the poor guy's helmet again and again. "I let you hit my man, I let you hit my man, I'm castrated." After saying that, Yan Qingqing stood up and took the stone to break this guy's back. Seeing that the stone was about to fall, Han Qian pounced on Yan Qingqing and said anxiously, "If you cut off his dick, we'll be in trouble." Yan Qingqing struggled and said angrily, "I will pay you any amount of money and I will go to jail. It has nothing to do with you. It won't do if he beats you." This woman was really angry. At the same time, Han Qian also knew one thing. The baseball bat in Yan Qingqing's car was definitely not a decoration. Yan Qingqing really stood up and was about to take action. Han Qian waved his hand and slapped Yan Qingqing on the face. On the face, the force was very light, slightly heavier than a touch, and he said angrily, "I'm not dead yet. The man is not dead yet. Call Li Jinhai right now, and I'll call Tu Xiao. See you at the city bureau." Yan Qingqing looked at Han Qian, then glanced at the stone in his hand, then threw it hard and hit the tall man on the body, and then took out her mobile phone to call the city bureau. When Han Qian called Tu Xiao, he heard Yan Qingqing's roar. Han Qian is going to die. At 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, Han Qian was standing outside the ward with a bandage on his head. Yan Qingqing had bandages on her arms and legs. Her injuries were scratched when Han Qian threw her down. She was sitting on a bench in the hospital corridor. Above, Han Qian stood in front of the window holding a cigarette. Tu Xiao came, and he only brought one younger brother, Guan Yunbiao. Tu Xiao acted very calmly and said softly, "I'll identify it." After saying this, Tu Xiao pushed in the door without knocking. Guan Degu leaned against the wall with his arms in his arms. Today he changed from his usual behavior and wore a coat that didn't match the season. Guan Degu lowered his head. Said softly, "Brother Han, can you guess who it is? I'm going to do it now." After saying this, Guan Degu patted his waist through his coat. Han Qian's expression changed instantly. He gritted his teeth and stepped forward, grabbing Guan Yunbiao's collar with both hands, and whispered, "You brought this thing to the hospital? Are you crazy? Send it out immediately and come back to discuss it. If you are discovered, I won't be able to save you." When Guan Yunbiao raised his head, Han Qian saw that this guy's eyes were actually red. Guan Degu said eagerly, "Brother Han, again and again. If you call me Brother Guan, I can't help you with anything. Why am I still hanging around in this world? Don't be ridiculous. Now go back and don't cause any trouble to your master. Now I'm sure it's not Wei Tianken's. These two guys want to kill me. Be obedient." Guan Yunbiao gritted his teeth, wiped his eyes and left unwillingly. He left. Han Qian sighed, and then Yan Qingqing said coldly, "Should I ask someone from the Honor Legal Department to come over now?" Han Qian turned around and shook his head gently. "It's not necessary. The Yeomanmen will try their best to suppress this matter. It should be handled in a low-key manner. After the matter is over, you can go to my house to rest. Zheng Jing is from the Yeomanmen next door. I still have things to deal with. I won't go to the company to work for the next few days." As soon as these words came out, Yan Qingqing stood up and grabbed Han Qian's collar, saying angrily with red eyes, "You don't want to die? You just had 4 stitches on your head. I agreed to come here if you didn't want to be hospitalized. But you still have to work around the clock. You don't want to die? I don't agree. Yan Qingqing's voice was sharp and could be heard clearly on the entire floor. When Han Qian hesitated to persuade Yan Qingqing, a door was pushed open and a middle-aged man with a big belly said coldly, "This is not a vegetable market. If you want to call home, call home." This guy came with Li Jinhai, and his position should not be low. Yan Qingqing, who had nowhere to vent her anger, turned around and roared. "What? Catch me? Come on. I'm yelling here today. Put handcuffs on me and throw me in. How can a bunch of losers show their authority in front of me? If I take a step back, you'll be the one to take care of me. Catch me." The intermediary frowned, then closed the door and returned to the room. At this time, the door to the ward was also opened. Tu Xiao walked out with a bad expression. He closed his eyes and shook his head at Han Qian. He didn't recognize these two guys. Li Jinhai was tight. Then, he looked at Han Qian standing at the door and frowned. "Why don't you go and rest? Don't you believe me?" Han Qian shook his head and said indifferently, "I'm waiting for Cheng Jin to come over, second uncle. Find 2 good people you trust and send Mr. Yan to my house to rest first. If Cheng Jin doesn't come today, this matter won't be over." Li Jinhai glanced at Yan Qingqing and shook his head gently. "Mr. Yan, don't leave in a hurry. Cheng Jin is on the way here, Han Qian. The 2 guys inside are seriously injured. If they bite you back, it will be difficult for you to get away with it." Han Qian frowned and replied, "Very heavy." Li Jinhai nodded. The tall man's name is Lu Jianyang. His right cheek was pierced by a helmet fragment, his nose bone was broken, and he lost one of his front teeth. Other minor injuries are not included. The other man's name is Zhong Xiudong. He is okay, with only a few fractures. Han Qian replied with a cold face. "You can adjust the distance monitoring. We have been driving ahead and they have been following us. In addition, Mr. Yan's driving recorder can see that I walked into the small road before them. I don't have the ability to predict the future. They can bite as much as they like, and now I want Qingqing to go home and rest, she is frightened." Li Jinhai shook his head. "Mr. Yan's injury has more influence than you. As your second uncle, I tell you that Mr. Yan's presence here is beneficial to you. Tu Logu also saw it just now. He doesn't know these 2 people. It seems that they are from those who come from out of town are obviously here for you. Second uncle, are you talking nonsense? Why are they coming after me? You don't know yet? In the past, they might have suspected that I knew, but after you threw me out of the Yamen gate, I told them clearly that I knew. Wei Tiancheng treats me to dinner and gives me women and girls. Someone wants to kill me today. It doesn't matter whether Yan Qingqing is here or not. If Cheng Jin wants to play tricks with me, then we should just overtake the game as soon as possible." As soon as he finished speaking, Cheng Jin came like a star holding the moon. When Han Qian saw Cheng Jin, he immediately shouted loudly, "Qingqing, find a lawyer and the media. If I don't let these 2 grandsons get through the jail, my humming surname is not Han." Yan Qingqing was stunned for a moment, nodded vigorously after a second, took out her mobile phone number, and spoke without dialing. "Have people from the legal department come to the central hospital now." Li Jinhai was confused. Cheng Jin panicked. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 234. Comrade Xiao Han, don't be so angry, let's talk. Temporarily requisitioning an office in the hospital, Cheng Jin made tea with his own hands and spoke to Han Qian with a soft smile. Han Qian curled his lips, while Yan Qingqing's bad temper said angrily. To put it simply, he was attacked and couldn't get angry? Cheng Jin, don't take yourself too seriously. The smile on Cheng Jin's face gradually disappeared, and he looked at Yan Qingqing indifferently and said coldly. If you don't want glory to be shut down for rectification, you'd better be quiet and polite, Mr. Yan Qingqing, Mr. Yan. Yan Qingqing's aura disappeared instantly, and then Han Qian curled his lips and said. You'd better be quiet and polite, Cheng Jin. Cheng Jin changed his clothes and face when he looked at Han Qian, handed Han Qian a cup of hot tea, and smiled. Comrade Xiao Han is right. You should be quieter in the middle of the night. We are indeed responsible for what happened today. In addition, Comrade Xiao Han, don't change your whereabouts too much. We have already photographed someone to protect you secretly. Han Qian curled his lips and said sarcastically. I just gave the order, right? Change the time to a few days ago. You said you sent people to monitor me, I believe it, to protect me. I am too lazy to expose you. I want to ask you, where have I been today and what have I done? Can you know? Cheng Jin's face became a little embarrassed, and Han Qian curled his lips and said again. Things have happened one after another in the city. I, an enthusiastic citizen, was killed. Will this incident have a bad impact on the city if it gets out? I'm going to say that you and Niu Qiudong have failed in their responsibilities. You are very aggrieved. Cheng Jin chuckled. It's okay, Jin Hai is with me. My second uncle will retire in 2 years at most. You are still very young and want to retire and return to your hometown. Otherwise, I can satisfy your extravagant wish. It only takes a few words. Comrade Xiao Han is being unkind. To each other, don't say you are a good person. I am not a bad person at heart. In fact, I am very easy to talk to. In the room, Tu Xiao and Li Jinhai were whispering, pretending not to be curious, but in fact they were missing the entire hearing aid. Yan Qingqing was also a little nervous at this moment. Wasn't Han Qian being too direct? He was the second in command in the city. Lin Mend and Lu Shenga also want to give others some face. But Han Qian was not prepared to save face for him at all. Cheng Jin sighed, stopped pretending, looked sideways at Han Qian and pouted. Little bastard, the person I least want to see right now is you, and the name I least want to hear is Han Qian. Han Qian shrugged and curled his lips. I don't want to have a hole in my head. Our Qingqing is still injured. You want her to be quieter and more polite? She's used to being domineering. Stop talking nonsense and make conditions. Dongcheng is going to be developed, right? It should also be on the agenda. Based on my simple calculations and bold guesses, it will be implemented by this time next year at the latest. It should be at least 300,000 square meters, right? Cheng Jin sneered after hearing this. Ouch, bunny ears. What? You want a piece of land to develop? Pick a place yourself. Han Qian quickly shook his head and waved his hands. No, 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 Mayor Cheng, who do you think I am? Do you think you are wise enough to threaten me? Threatening you is really a threat. I don't want much. Your Yamanman will make the Dongcheng development plan, but I, Han Qian, have the final say as to which companies will develop it. If you can agree, we can continue to talk. Can't agree, we will make the whole thing public today, plus the previous ones. Cheng Jin was stunned as he reached for the teacup. Yan Qingqing was also stunned, looking at Han Qian in disbelief, and Tu Xiao was even more excited. What is the most profitable thing to do right now? Real estate. Han Qian crossed his legs and rubbed his bruised ankle. Cheng Jin looked at Han Qian with a gloomy expression, then turned his eyes to Li Jinhai and said angrily. Get out of here after 2 years, and don't be the director anymore. Li Jinhai raised his hands and nodded. Thank you. I really don't want to do it. I asked my niece a few days ago and she told me that this guy, just Han Qian, is the kind of guy who, once my nephew and son-in-law are in trouble, doesn't recognize their relatives and does things regardless of the consequences. I'm scared too. Cheng Jin gritted his teeth and pointed at Li Jinhai. After a long time, he dropped his arm and frowned when he looked at Han Qian again. I can't make the decision on this matter alone, and I can't leave it to you either. The Yeomanmen cannot withstand public opinion. Han Qian sneered. You don't have enough public opinion? You don't need to publicly say that you leave it to me. I will give you a list when you need it. Then someone will naturally come to the door. You don't need to worry about anything at the Yamen gate. You can rest assured. Just wait to collect the money and wait for Dongcheng district to show up, that's the only condition I have. You want us to discuss it at the Yamen gate. What day is tomorrow? Everyone at the Yamen gate is on holiday. I don't have tomorrow. I have a lot of time to sleep. Let's discuss it now. How about we go to see Niu Qiudong? I agreed to this condition, and you still my dear Uncle Cheng. If you don't agree, you are still Uncle Cheng. I am negotiating with the Yeomanmen. I want the entire Yeomanmen to be investigated. If you and Niu Qiudong are suspended for inspection and transferred, why don't you just satisfy me? What about your little request? Cheng Jin hesitated, but Han Qian continued regardless of the difficulty he had. Leaving this matter to me can also avoid one thing, that is, businessmen giving money to the people at the Yeomanmen. The temptation is too great and no one can resist it, right? Me. It won't make too much of a fuss. I've had some fun. Just play games at home, I'll wait until dawn. Cheng Jin couldn't bear it anymore, smashed the teacup in his hand and glared at Han Qian. You little brat, it's illegal to threaten a public official. Han Qian looked at Cheng Jin pitifully and whispered. Aren't you discussing this with me? Do you want me to make conditions? There are so many people here, don't blame me. If you could have discovered this motorcycle following me earlier, this matter wouldn't have happened. Well, if you weren't greedy and didn't want to deal with the pressure from above, asking me for a list of criminals and throwing me out, wouldn't this be a problem? My father-in-law, no. My former father-in-law taught me that businessmen do things I can't lose money when I'm here. I can't embarrass my father-in-law and mother-in-law, right? Don't say I'm threatening you. Go, 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 I don't want to see you again for a minute. My legs are numb. Cheng Jin left, slamming the door and telling Li Jinhai to throw these two guys in as quickly as possible. It would be best if there was no movement at all. If something happened, they would really not be able to withstand the pressure from above. In the office, Han Qian yawned and stood up. I'm tired, go home and sleep. In the Audi outside the hospital, Cheng Jin called Niu Qiudong. Lao Niu, this guy wants to take the lead in the Dongcheng project. He wants to decide which companies will allocate the Dongcheng land to them. What do you think? Promise him that the price will remain unchanged and it won't have any impact on us. Let's put all the things under control first. I'm checking the identities of the two assailants. Take him to see you tomorrow. It's not necessary, you can make the decision. I've been scolded to death by the superiors recently. I'm not anxious about anything now. I just hope nothing happens to the city and I'll be thankful. Send someone to keep an eye on Han Qian. Isn't he a lustful person? We don't have police bells in our city. Your daughter. Cheng Jin, you want to quarrel? Find someone besides my daughter, Don't mention the word Han Qian in my ears in the future. Me too. After hanging up the phone, Cheng Jin tilted his head and thought. Policewoman. Just a cute little flower. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 235. Cheng Jin left, and Li Jinhai went to see the two fools who were seeking death. It was not good to provoke anyone, but he chose to provoke Han Qian and Yan Qingqing. It was not a good time to choose. When these two people were together, it was impossible to steal the chicken. Fortunately, Yan Qingqing generously paid for the medical expenses, otherwise, this would also be a trouble. Han Qian, who went downstairs, asked Yan Qingqing where he was going and that he could drive. As soon as he finished speaking, Tu Xiao began to scold Guan Yunbiao for not going over to drive. Where to go? Yan Qingqing, who was sitting in the back seat and half lying in Han Qian's arms, said enthusiastically that she would go to her apartment. Seeing how energetic the girls were, Han Qian really didn't dare to go. At the same time, Han Qian also admired Cheng Jinhe. The speed with which Li Jinhai blocked the news. When Nuan and her mother-in-law don't know the news yet. Yan Qingqing's home must not go, and he does not want to go to his own home. As long as Yan Qingqing follows, the result will be the same. A figure appeared in Han Qian's mind, and under Yan Qingqing's gaze, he asked twitchingly. Where does Aunt Ji live? Maybe it was because he was injured, or maybe he felt a little aggrieved. The figure that appeared in Han Qian's mind was Ji Jing, and then he raised his hand and slapped himself. Isn't this a scumbag? Finally Han Qian made his decision. Go to company. Yan Qingqing's eyes became angry, she sat up and ignored Han Qian. Guan Degu, who had been driving, didn't say a word. When she arrived at the company, Yan Qingqing woke up the night shift security guards and told them to turn on the lights. There was a lounge behind Yan Qingqing's office where she could rest. Han Qian went in once. It was almost dawn when she arrived at the office, and Yan Qingqing went to change clothes. He went to the room to change clothes, and he was sitting on the sofa in front of him. He wanted to lie down, but there was a wound on the back of his head. Want to lie down? My arms and shoulders feel uncomfortable when I lie down. Now Han Qian wants a hammock most. He is sitting on the sofa thinking about whether Cheng Jin will agree to his arrogant request, how to distribute it after agreeing, and what to do if he doesn't agree. The more he thinks about it, the more his head hurts. My butt hurts too. I did nothing else all day long, just got beaten, and it didn't stop from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the evening. What evil did you do in your previous life? He raised his head with a long sigh and found Tu Xiao sitting on the single sofa next to him. Han Qian frowned and said in confusion. I don't have anywhere to sleep. What are you doing? Are you not sleeping anymore? Tu Xiao showed a shy smile, which gave Han Qian goosebumps all over his body, and then Tu Xiao coyly whispered. The child's uncle, Tu Xiao, have never done anything good in my life, and let this poor child Tu Kun lose his mother early. In the end, I haven't saved much dowry for her. I am a good father. It's shameful that Tu Kun can have you as his uncle, it's like smoke rising from the ancestral graves of my Tu family. If there's smoke, it's a fire. You need to call 119. The child's uncle, isn't this the ancestral grave on fire, and then you, Lord Shui Dexing, came to put out the fire. Boss 2, why don't you play Journey to the West with me? If you have anything to say as a family, please tell me. Tu Xiao raised his head and chuckled. Look at the East City side. Knowing that this was the case, Han Qian smiled at Tu Xiao. Don't rush to mix up this matter. It's not that my brother won't give it to you, but it's still a little difficult for you to get involved in real estate development. You should be a construction businessman first and accumulate some experience and reputation before thinking about it. Tu Xiao was slightly disappointed. Thinking about it carefully, it didn't seem suitable. People at the Yamen gate didn't like him. Han Qian was worried that Tu Xiao would be too preoccupied, so he continued. And the Yamenmen haven't agreed to this matter yet. If it fails, I will most likely have a stalemate with Cheng Jin and the others, and it will eventually reach the point where it can't be ended. I'll wait and see when this matter is finalized, or else if you are not afraid of losing money, you can test the waters with 2 buildings first. Tu Xiao smiled and grinned at Han Qian. After all, we are still a reliable family. Han Qian smiled and shook his head. We are not a family, and you will not rush in to save me alone. The relationship between people is mutual. You are attentive to me, and I have treated you badly. It is me. Han Qian is not a human, and he has been busy all night. Go back and rest early. There is one more thing. Boss 2, can you lend me some more reliable brothers? I'm not worried about Nuan. No one in the city dares to touch her, but it's not safe for Empress Zigong and the 2 little ones to promise, isn't it, Brother Han? I have asked my brothers to watch in secret. They are all brothers who have been with the master for 10 years. Guan Yunbiao stood at the door and spoke directly. At this moment, Yan Qingqing changed her clothes and came out, and asked in confusion who was the queen of the West Palace. Who is Donggong, Wen Juiying? This topic brought Guan Degu back to life. He was so excited that he wanted to talk to Yan Qingqing, but after a few words, Tu Xiao pinched the back of his neck and took him away. Han was left in the office. Qian and Yan Qingqing, when the latter looked at them, Han Qian immediately spoke angrily. Don't act like a moron. My whole body is covered with injuries. I can't lie down or sit up. I'm thinking about calling Wei Tiancheng and blaming him first. Yan Qingqing sat on the boss's chair and put her feet on the table and whispered softly. It's useless to call you. If Wei Tiancheng wants to attack you and has someone to frame you, you can't go anywhere today. Go inside and sleep. Han Qian shook his head and sighed. Probably not. When Aunt Ji comes, I want her to send me to Chengjin. Now I really want to call Feng Lun, so that the Yamanmen will feel threatened, but I don't know what to do. Go get in touch, I don't want to sacrifice Luo Shanda yet. Yan Qingqing shrugged and said calmly. We'll talk in the afternoon. You go and take a nap first. Don't worry. I definitely won't go in. Forget it, I'm feeling a little irritable right now and can't sleep well. I'm going back to the general department first, but you should go take a nap first. There are too many things going on in the company, and Gao Jingchen might get caught by his carelessness. After saying that, Han Qian ignored Yan Qingqing, stood up and left the office, returned to the general department and lay down on the table to catch up on his sleep. At 9 o'clock in the morning, all the staff came to work one after another. When Lu Zhulong was the first to walk into the general department and saw Han Qian who was checking information on the computer, he was stunned. He took out his mobile phone and took a look, then walked forward and said doubtfully. That's weird. The sun is coming out in the west. Han Qian turned his head and smiled, then stretched out his hand to Lu Zhulong. The latter reluctantly took out a pancake and handed it to Han Qian. Looking at the dark circles under this guy's eyes, Li Zhulong frowned. Be careful not to die suddenly. Work is important, and so is your life. You have to live for money all your life. Life is not long. The world is very big. You will meet many people. It is life to see more of the scenery along the way. Han Qian grinned and said with a silly smile. Isn't this young? Lu Zhulong sighed. When I'm old, it's too late. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 236. Chapter 236. Han Qian couldn't understand Lu Zhulong's mentality now because he was still young. Members of the general department arrived one after another. They were all surprised by Han Qian's appearance. Suliang carefully discovered the injury on the back of Han Qian's head. Suliang didn't ask more. He found that the gap between himself and Han Qian was getting wider and wider, and he couldn't feel things at his level. What Suliang wants to do now is to work hard and at least support his family. He used to have fun in the flowers, but after meeting girl Yelai and the two of them sitting in the car chatting about their marriage, Suliang had already made up his mind. You can quarrel because of feelings and different ideas, but you must not quarrel over the cost of food, rice, oil, salt, and children. Once you quarrel because of these things, it is the man's fault no matter what. A man can't support a family. Is it okay? Is there any reason to refute it? This is the responsibility of being a man. At this time, Han Qian's cell phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Han Qian hung up without answering, turned around in his chair, patted Suliang's shoulder, and said softly, "Now you choose a location in Dongcheng and make a real estate plan and detailed planning. It's best if you complete it all by yourself. Don't rush things. You will be malicious for a month or two. It's considered a prescription for you by your buddy. Xiao, work hard and strive to get the bonus and pay the down payment for a house during the Chinese New Year." Suliang raised his head and smiled. "How sure are you?" Han Qian smiled lightly. Waiting for the second call. As soon as he finished speaking, the second call came. Han Qian picked up the phone and stood up and walked out of the general department. It happened that Yang Lan came recently at this time. He tilted his head and asked Han Qian where he was going. Han Qian pointed to the phone. He swiped the answer button and chuckled. "Mayor Cheng, I was thinking that you could take a rest when you go back. Balance work and rest, and pay attention to your health." "Ha ha ha, I accept Comrade Han Qian's wishes. Is it convenient for you to talk now? Find a place where no one is around." Yang Lan sighed after hearing the title of Mayor Cheng on the phone. Han Qian smiled at Yang Lan and walked away. When he came to the elevator, Han Qian said with a smile, "You said there is no one around me now." The person on the other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds, and then roared, "You little bastard, you still know that I'm not sleeping? You're a lion and you're not afraid of supporting yourself to death when you open your mouth. Did Li Jinhai tell you about Dongcheng?" Han Qian put his phone away from his ears and replied weakly, "Why are you yelling? I didn't look at you. I said I wouldn't let you sleep. I'm holding you back to death, so you can save yourself a trouble. Besides, you gave it to me after talking about this matter, so that the guys at the Yamen gate won't be around. Didn't you find an opportunity to take bribes? You also have time to clean up the Yamen gate, Lao Cheng. You are not at a loss. Little bastard, I don't have anyone around you now, and you don't have anyone around you either. Don't force me to scold you. Are you so kind to help reduce the pressure on the Yemenmen? Don't you still want to make your own money and fame? No one knows what your kid thinks." "Huh. Han Qian, let me tell you, I can agree to your conditions, but if Feng Lun is contacting you, you must give me some information and tell me where this gun came from." "Gun? Couldn't you have asked me about this earlier?" "I know, Feng Lun told me, and the guy named Wei gave it to me." Han Qian replied absently, and there was silence on the phone again. After a long time, Cheng Jin sighed. "We also received some information here. Do you have recordings and conclusive evidence?" Han Qian took out a cigarette, lit it in his mouth, and replied calmly, "No, I was told by someone. Let's put it this way, I probably don't know much. The gun was given by Wei. Feng Lun wanted revenge. The two of them cooperated. One wanted Feng's Haida's life and the other wanted the Yemenman. The secret, Chiang was going to be framed for Tu Xiao. Feng Lun guessed that if his secret was given to Wei, he would die, and he told me the little bit he knew again and again, in order to divert the attention to me. So you think those two guys yesterday were from Wei? Can you use your brain? Wei doesn't know anything yet. The two guys there yesterday wanted my life. Wei didn't want me to die. He would get nothing if I died. I said it was Feng's Haida who did it. You don't believe it either. I can't guess who it is, after all, there are too many people who want to kill me. So you want the land in Dongcheng to tie your relationship with the Yamanmen more tightly? For safety. Yes, Lao Cheng, you finally became smart for once. Now you agree to me? Can we sign a contract or something? Go away, it's true that I've left the matter to you, but we can't let you mess around here at the Yamen gate, hee hee. Han Qian. Hearing Cheng Jin's sinister laughter, Han Qian shuddered and said tremblingly. What are you going to do? Lao Cheng, you have to pay attention to your identity. Cheng Jin smiled sinisterly. Originally I wanted to find a policewoman to protect you, but I thought this was not suitable, so I replaced you with someone. After all, Han Daxian has a busy career, so he has to have a secretary, right? Han Qian is really not afraid of this matter. As the second in command in the city, if Lao Cheng can send a policewoman, there must be something wrong with his mind. He threw away the cigarette butt and said with a smile. Secretary, right? Okay. She's pretty, fair, and has long legs. It's best if she likes to wear black, can drive, and is an OL girl with eyes. She should wear professional attire and high heels. No other requirements. Be frigid. Piss off. Cheng Jin hung up the phone directly. Niu Qiudong, who was sitting in Cheng Jin's seat, looked at the old guy coldly and said coldly. If you dare to send my daughter over, don't blame me for not caring about our friendship. Cheng Jin curled his lips and looked at Niu Qiudong with disdain. If Han Qian can really be your son-in-law, you should burn some incense. Didn't the higher UPS send a few people here? They all say that Han Qian is a lustful person. I'm thinking of sending the girl sent by the higher UPS. Niu Qiudong's face darkened and he spoke gloomily. Cheng Jin, you'd better not take it off. It's better than letting those restless guys find trouble with Han Qian. Now we too have to clean up the Yamen door before breaking up with Han Qian. Even if something goes wrong, it's Han Qian and the girl's business. What are you getting involved in? Are you sure you don't want to meet this Han Qian? Cheng Jin, don't forget who Li Jinhai's eldest brother is, and don't forget how close Li Jinhai is to Wen Nuan. Do you know that you are soliciting a prostitute? Didn't Wen Nuan and Han Qian get divorced? I'm thinking about lifelong matters for the outstanding single young men in the city. You know how to deal with it? I will do the girl's ideological work. Should you handle Feng's Haida's matter? Niu Qiudong stood up and nodded. I'll handle it. It's a bit troublesome. I'm not very good at dealing with the citizens. You're in charge, and I'm in charge. Please clean up the Yamen gate as soon as possible to give the people peace. Okay. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 237. After going downstairs, Han Qian called Yan Qingqing and told her to take half a day off to go home and sleep. Yan Qingqing didn't say anything, but told Han Qian to pay attention to safety. From the sound of her voice, Yan Qingqing didn't have much energy. Han Qian took a taxi to the hospital. Regardless of whether the wound has healed or not, the stitches must be removed and a bandage must be used to tighten it, which means that the previous injury has recurred. After finishing everything, Han Qian took out his mobile phone and called Nuan Nuan. Nuan Nuan was very excited when he received the call and said in a sweet voice, "Are you coming to pick me up?" Hearing Wen Nuan's voice, Han Qian suddenly felt a sense of fear in his heart. If he had told him there last night, would Wen Nuan never be able to wait for him to pick him up? Han Qian smiled and said with a grin, "Well, I'll be there right away." He didn't agree to pick him up. Han Qian was not sure if it was safe now. When he got in the car again, he received a call from Cheng Jin, asking when he would have time to meet with the secretary. Han Qian replied that he would talk to him when he had time. Cheng Jin Xiao Xiao hung up the phone. He must have this secretary, even if he wants to. The people at the Yamen gate must watch his every move and will not let him hand over the Dongcheng land to some unreliable people at will. This so-called secretary, the secretary plays the role of supervisor, and at the same time, he also tells those outside that Han Qian can indeed take charge of Dongcheng's affairs. In addition, he has a protective role. This is what Han Qian thinks. Anyway, this secretary is more important to him. A bench to improve his status is also a bargaining chip in negotiations. As for being beautiful, fair-skinned, with a large intestine and long legs, it's just nonsense. Not enough women around you? Not annoying enough? Arriving at Prince Xingjia's mansion, a panda pounced upon him as soon as he opened the door. Han Qian looked at the warmth hugging him tightly and frowned. When did you get yourself such a set of pajamas? Panda. The girl in his arms was a panda, Fluffy. Lao Wen looked at the young couple at the door with a cup of tea and smiled. You two were not so sticky when you were not divorced. How are your health? I heard that Li Jinhai was arrested again. Han Qian patted Nuan's head and smiled at his father-in-law. I took the initiative to go in. I cursed an officer at the Yamen gate and was arrested. The main reason was to see what kind of medicine this old man Cheng Jin had taken. The result was pretty much what I expected. I went in and splashed around. I called my second uncle by his name and received a beating from a willow stick, which was extremely painful. As he spoke, Han Qian had already walked into the living room and sat on the pony. When Nuan stood behind Han Qian and tilted his head to look at the bandage on his head, his eyes full of doubts. Lao Wen laughed after hearing this. What's wrong with calling him Li Jinhai? Isn't it him that Li Er is scolding? Now that he is an official, his temper has gradually grown. Don't contact him in the future. I despise him the most because he beats children. I can't be reasonable about anything. I see that you are very close to Cheng Jin now. What do you want to drink? Let Nuan bring it to you. Han Qian chuckled. At this moment, when Nuan had already brought a bottle of water, he took a sip first and handed it to Han Qian. It was definitely Lao Wen who said drink water. The girl felt thirsty herself. Han Qian took a sip and looked at Lao Qian. Wen said seriously. Dad, there's something I need to tell you. Well, I recently, I took a piece of land in Dongcheng. Don't get excited. I haven't paid yet. The thing is probably because when Nuan can pick a piece of land at will and then negotiate the price with the government office, they don't dare to open their mouths. Lao Wen put down the teacup in his hand and frowned. Is this Cheng Jin's sincerity to you? It may not be optimistic to rush the development in Dongcheng. Han Qian lowered his head and said weakly. The Yamenmen want to develop more than 300,000 square meters of land in the East City, to make that area a main residential area. We plan to start taking action next year, and then I got the land. Quan, probably whoever I give it to is qualified to negotiate with the Yamenmen. There is no competition. I haven't researched the price. You have to discuss this with Nuan. After saying this, he looked at Wen Nuan who was squatting next to him. The girl raised her head and looked at him stupidly. Han Qian couldn't help but raised his hand and knocked on Wen Nuan's forehead and said with a smile. What are you looking at so stupidly? I'm looking at your head. Why is there an extra bandage? Han Qian smiled helplessly. In total, you didn't even listen to what I just told you. With you and Lao Wen, you two can handle it without me, a general, taking action. Han Qian and Lao Wen looked at each other, their eyes full of helplessness. After chatting briefly for a while, Han Qian became sleepy. He went to the second bedroom and lay on his side on the bed to rest. While lying down, he fiddled with his hands and sent a message to Li Jinhai to inquire about it. What happened to Feng Lun, and last night, how much pressure from above was exerted on Cheng Jin, and whether Feng's Haida accepted the investigation or not. Li Jinhai replied with a short essay, which roughly means that Feng's Haida has been investigated, but the replacement happened too early. If you want to check the information from that year, you cannot believe Feng Lun's words. In addition, the Yamanman sent him out. Several scapegoats involved in the crime did not dare to be sent out at once, otherwise Cheng Jin and Niu Qiudong would also be suspended for investigation. As for the two guys last night, they insisted that they valued Yan Qingqing's car and wanted to steal some money to live happily. The matter was charged with robbery. Now many people are paying attention to the matter here. For a robbery it failed, and there wasn't much focus. Han Qian thought for a while and sent a text message to ask. Didn't Feng's Haida admit the crime in front of the big screen? Isn't it difficult to investigate? Is this the end of Feng Lun's pursuit investigation? Just as the text message was sent, Li Jinhai called. Don't send text messages in the future. My eyes are hard to use and my typing is slow. Han Qian, let me tell you first what people in the Yamen need to be busy with. The investigation of Feng's Haida's matter will put pressure on Cheng Jin and Niu Qiudong to investigate the Yamen. Then there will be the influx of guns. Things will happen bit by bit. Feng Lun will almost make me busy here. Is it worth it for you to trade an injury for a gatekeeper from Dongcheng land? It's worth it, because I need money, and I need a lot of money to pay off my debts. I don't have much potential. If I pay off my debts, build a house for my mother and get medical insurance, I will be satisfied. I don't want to miss any opportunity. Besides, there's no way to find out who sent these two guys. Can't you find out the bank transfers? After saying this, Li Jinhai laughed at himself. You don't have a single bank card in your name, you are two bachelors, you have no parents, no wife, or children. This is the hardest thing to check. First, tell me how many enemies you have provoked. There are too many to count. There are 3 or 4 who want me dead. Li Dehai, Li Dongsheng, Lin Zongheng, and Feng's Haida are in charge. Tell me what you want. In the sleeper berth of a green leather train heading to Jinji, a handsome man was lying on the upper berth and chatting lively with a migrant worker on the lower berth. He was holding a 25-cent cigarette handed over by the uncle in his hand and said, chatting without saying a word. While chatting, the handsome and somewhat coquettish man chuckled while looking at the text messages sent on his phone. Isn't this a good meeting gift? Huh. No, I haven't met you yet. He won't let things get too big. If things get too big, he won't be able to have fun. Isn't making so much money just for fun? Guess who this guy is? I just had something wrong with my mind and lost a chapter. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, A Huan. Chapter 238. It was already dark when he woke up. Han Qian walked out of the room in a daze, looked at Wen Nuan standing neatly at the door, and asked doubtfully. Why are you acting like a monster? Where are your parents? Mom went to play mahjong, and Lao Wen went to have tea with friends. Let's go. Go home. I'll call my parents and tell them. After leaving so rashly, the old man would inevitably feel uncomfortable when he came back and looked at Kong Lao's house. So he called to inform him that he was leaving, which was also in line with the rules. After going downstairs and getting in the car, Panamera became a warm car. Xiao Hong went to drive Yushasai for the time being. When Nuan drove and looked ahead. Are you fighting with someone again? If you didn't put a bandage on it, I might not be able to tell. Han Qian, can you stop doing such things? Han Qian's expression was a little awkward. He muttered something warm but didn't hear it clearly. She also asked too many questions. She didn't care much about the land in Dongcheng. It wasn't that she didn't care, but that both Han Qian and Lao Wen had thought about it. She doesn't need to worry anymore. Nuan is learning from Yan Qingqing to trust Han Qian. After returning home, Wen Nuan exclaimed that it was still comfortable at home. Being scolded several times a day by Lao Wen was annoying to death. Han Qian just listened to such complaints. She was a big girl who couldn't take care of herself. That is to say, Lao Wen was used to it, and he would have been beaten several times in another place. At this moment, Han Qian couldn't sleep at all. He turned on the computer and worked on an unfinished plan. This plan was not big, but it was more careful. It was as detailed as an advertisement on a billboard. Unknowingly, it was already 10 o'clock. Han Qian stood up and yawned. He turned around and saw Wen Nuan standing on the stairs, wearing the sexier pajamas. He bent down and ran his fingers across his long white legs, and then looked at Han Qian. Qian curled his fingers. "Brother Qian, it's time to go to bed." Han Qian took off his suit and smiled. "Wait. This piece of meat is always dangling in front of my eyes. Even gods can't bear it if I don't eat it for a long time." Han Qian is not Tang monk. He is definitely sick if he can resist being tempted like this. When Nuan reaches his goal, he turns around and runs away. Han Qian pulls his leg. He ran upstairs, and when he walked into the bedroom, he was wrapped in a quilt and smiling foolishly. "Brother Qian, I'm visiting relatives." Han Qian was stunned for a moment, then became furious. "Even the King of Heaven and I don't have it? You will be unlucky for 3 years if you run a red light. Sleep." Han Qian went to bed, pulled his quilt and wrapped himself into a silkworm chrysalis. The distance between him and Wen was more than 1 meter. He was prepared to ignore Wen, but it was impossible for Han Qian to sleep peacefully with Wen's personality. Yes, he came to Han Qian's side, lay on Han Qian's chest, looked into Han Qian's eyes, and said seriously, "Han Qian, why don't we get married again? If you don't like me enjoying it, I'll liquidate the shares in my hand. Let's take our parents and live in another city, okay?" Han Qian stretched out his hand and pinched the warm little nose, hugged the girl's back and said softly, "It's not up to me now whether I leave or not. As long as I leave the city, I will be remembered by Feng Lun, and the people at the Yamen gate will not let me leave their sight. I can only treat you when you are in the city, rest assured." Nuan rubbed his body and whispered on Han Qian's chest. "Are you in danger? Otherwise, you can't threaten Cheng Jin's right to get the land in Dongcheng. You tried so hard to make me feel bad, Han Qian. I don't want the money, I don't want anything, you don't have to. I'm risking my life to make money. After I finish the work in Dongcheng, I will tell Cheng Jin everything I know. Then I will stop working hard and take care of your daily life with peace of mind. You haven't told me if you're in danger. Go to sleep, am I still alive and kicking?" Han Qian didn't want to say it, but Nuan could guess a little. He sighed softly, wrapped himself in a quilt and rolled to the other side. A night of silence. The next morning when Wen Nuan and Han Qian went out, they happened to meet Zheng Zheng. This guy seemed to want to say something to Han Qian, but gave up after several attempts. This was also the first time they said hello without speaking. When he went downstairs, Han Qian received an unfamiliar number. When the other party introduced his identity, Han Qian remembered it. He almost forgot about this little girl. When he got off the car in front of the company, Wen Nuan suddenly asked Han Qinruo to come over. She had something to say. Han Qian just bent down, his warm hands grabbed his collar and forced the man down in front of him, threatening him. "Don't mess around with others." After saying that, he pecked Han Qian's lips gently, then pushed Han Qian's forehead away and walked away. Han Qian, who stayed where he was, looked at the back of the car and giggled, when a cold voice came from behind. Warm lips taste better than mine. Hearing this cold voice from the abyss, Han Qian turned around mechanically and looked at Yan Qingqing, who had a flaming face. He scratched his head awkwardly. Yan Qingqing snorted coldly and stepped forward to straighten Han Qian's clothes in front of the public. "Leader," he said coldly. "Lu Shenga is here. He came by train last night and stayed at the Metropark Hotel. Be careful." I felt from his words that those two guys seemed to be sent here by him. This grandson is like a poisonous snake. And it's a shameless one. He will also come to the company for a meeting today. Director Qian and Li Dehai will come, and Yang Lan will go there at that time, and both Lu Shenga and Director Qian have asked her to attend. Viper. Bundle. A tree branch appeared in Han Qian's head, and then he shook his head vigorously and frowned. Him. Why do I feel like he belongs to Li Dongsheng and Lin Zongheng? Li Dongsheng probably doesn't have the guts. I don't know Lin Zongheng, so I'm just guessing. Oh. Then I'm going to see Wu Sijuan. She made an appointment with me in the morning. She's at the cafe opposite. Let's have breakfast by the way. You go upstairs first. As soon as she finished speaking, Yan Qingqing's hair began to burn, and she grabbed the collar that she had just tidied up and said angrily. Are you going to skip work again? I just told you that there is a board meeting in the morning. The directors are all coming over, so are you skipping work? Han Qian replied with an indifferent expression. He just drives his own. The company won't close down without me. Let's talk about it when we're done. Goodbye. After saying that, Han Qian turned around and ran away, leaving Yan Qingqing looking for stones to kill this guy. Did he not want to give any face to Lu Shenga? Looking at Han Qian crossing the road, Yan Qingqing suddenly smiled. He's a piece of shit. Why give him face? The target amount he set is about to be reached. By then, my sister will no longer be a poor college student you sponsored. What a blessing. It's just a standard of 100 million. You support me and I help you make money. This is a cooperative relationship. Yan Qingqing turned around and went upstairs, deliberately pulling her skirt down a little again, so warm. Playing with your sister? In the coffee shop, when Wu Sijuan saw Han Qian, the first thing he said was Wang Jia. Brother Qian, Li Dongsheng wants to pay for the murder. After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 239. In the first move, Yan Qingqing said it was Lu Shenga's man, but Wu Sijuan came over and said that Li Dongsheng wanted to pay for the murder. Who do you believe? Han Qian nodded expressionlessly, called the waiter and ordered 2 cakes, and motioned to Wu Sijuan to eat while talking. The girl ate the cake and said eagerly. When we were together last night, I heard Li Dongsheng make a phone call, but he quickly received a call from Li Dehai. The two of them didn't know what they said. Li Dongsheng was very angry and quarreled with Li Dehai. I don't know the specific reason, but I heard Li Dongsheng say that he was going to meet with Lin Zongheng today, and also that Li Dehai wanted Li Dongsheng to return to the company and go to the public relations department, and also, they wanted to target Yang Lan. Han Qian only needs to know a general idea about this kind of thing, there is no need to know the details, and Wu Sijuan should not be able to know the details. He stood up and told Wu Sijuan to eat slowly. He remembered these things. Now he wants to go back to the company. He can bully others, but not Yang Lan. Orphaned and widowed, Yang Lan has to work to support Xiao Baibei, and Yang Ian's character. Han Qian trotted all the way. When he passed the lobby on the first floor, his expression was indifferent. The girls passing by gathered together and pointed. If Han Daxianer had no violent tendencies, he would definitely be the most suitable boyfriend. The 2 handsome guys in the general department are both famous and have their wives. Mr. Su and the girl from the public relations department are together, and Han Daxianer is Mr. Yan's darling. Just think about it. When he returned to the general department, he didn't see Yang Lan or Lu Zhuolong. Han Qian stood there and was confused. He couldn't rush to the conference room. After all, he was just an employee. How about making a phone call? The phone will be on silent during meeting times. What if Sister Yang is bullied? Sul Yang and De Qian'er watched Han Qian wandering around the office like a fly. Sul Yang asked De Qian'er in a low voice while holding coffee. What happened to him? De Qian looked at Han Qian seriously and returned after a moment of silence. Maybe he wanted to hit someone. Han Qian's violent tendencies have penetrated into everyone's bones. Just when De Qian was about to call Han Qian to come over and play games, little Yang Jie came jumping up and down. When he saw Han Qian, he narrowed his eyes and smiled. Brother Qian. Han Qian shouted without thinking. Mr. Yan is looking for me, right? Okay, I understand. Yes. There are only two things that little Yang Jie has to do when he comes to the general department. The first is to find Han Qian, and the second is to come and be lazy. Han Qian ran all the way to the conference room and pushed in the door without knocking. Before Yan Qingqing could speak, Qian Ling let out an angry shout. Go out. Han Qian didn't even fart. He left the conference room and closed the door. He knocked on the door without any hesitation. Unfortunately, he asked him to come in. Lu Shenge sat where Yan Qingqing used to sit. Opposite him were Qian Ling and Li Qian. De Hai is no longer qualified to be the second best person. Yan Qingqing sat to the left of Lu Shenge, and Gao Xing'ai was second to the right. Sitting between him and Lu Shenge was Li De Hai, followed by senior executives who supported Gao Xing'ai. Lu Shenge looked at the senior executives sitting in the conference room. Yan Qingqing seems to have many more subordinates than expected. After taking a look at Gao Jingxing, Lu Shenge was a little disappointed. Shouldn't they be quarreling and competing with each other? How come from the beginning of the meeting until now, the two of them have been too harmonious, which made Lu Shenge very dissatisfied. He couldn't see that competition would be a lot less fun. How could progress be achieved without competition? The most important thing is that he can't feel the fun. His own life was ruined and he lost many things that ordinary people had within easy reach, so Lu Shenge likes to control other people's lives and become God in the eyes of these people. Lu Shenge doesn't like accidents and variables. He likes to follow his script. Lu Shenge lifted the table with one hand and whispered softly with his eyes closed, rhythmically. In just a few months, Director Qian suddenly became the company's second largest shareholder. It's gratifying. Director Li accidentally lost 5% of his shares. Ha! Things can't be settled so easily. Dong Shen was an employee of the company at that time. Han Qian was also an employee, and I heard he was also a hero. How could young people not quarrel? Right. Lu Shenge was 29 years old. Li Dongsheng and Han Qian became children in his mouth. People who knew his character had no change in their expressions. Gao Xingxing's eyes were a little dim. After his sister passed away, Lu Shenge changed and gave up. After receiving rehabilitation treatment, when I was discharged from the hospital, I stood at the door of the hospital with my eyes closed and sighed. I still remember the sentence clearly now. Everyone was relieved to hear that Lu Shenge would not pursue the matter, including Gao Jingxing. Li Dehai's expression did not change and he just nodded lightly. Lu Shenge opened his eyes and smiled at Qian Ling. Can I have a cigarette? This is one of the few things I have to rely on. The question was asked, but without waiting for the answer, he took out the cigarette and put it in his mouth. He took out a lighter that was exactly the same as the one that Han Qian had snatched away, lit the cigarette, blew out a puff of smoke, squinted his eyes and smiled. The staff is young and can avoid pursuing it, but is the supervisor still ignorant? Well, who is the supervisor of the general department? Stand up. Yan Qingqing's face instantly turned pale, and she opened her mouth to excuse Yang Lan, but Lu Shenge's eyes met hers. Yan Qingqing felt like she was wrapped and restrained by femininity, unable to say a word. Yang Lan stood up slowly and whispered softly. "Road. Director Lu, it's me." Lu Shenge looked at Yang Lan with squinted eyes, then smiled with squinted eyes. "Well, it's Lan Lan. I remember there are some rumors circulating in the company. Gentle Lan and Tranquil Ji are the ceiling for single girls in the company. They have always occupied the position of the two most beautiful women in the group. It's a pity that my three views can't follow the five senses and choose an outcome for yourself." Yang Lan bent down slightly and said softly. Director Lu and Liao praised it. "There is no such thing as a Tuanhua or a Tuanhua. This matter was due to my negligence at work, which caused Director Li's son to leave the company. I will take the initiative to resign." Director Lu, Minister Yang was frightened at that time. After all, she is a woman. She will inevitably lose consciousness when she sees a fight. Moreover, Yang Lan has always been in charge of the outside of the general department. I am in charge of the internal affairs. This matter was my negligence. I took the initiative to resign." Li Zhuolong stood up like a man. He liked her more than he could say. He knew that Yang Lan would never be with him, but if he didn't stand up today, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Besides, Yang Lan needs this job. Lu Shenge looked at Lu Zhuolong, narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Who do you think you are?" Another guy showed up and disrupted his prepared script. Ever since he entered the city, everything was not what he expected. Lu Shenge was already very unhappy. He no longer cares about any company, making money, or reputation. Now he just wants to be happy. Li Zhuolong's face turned blue and white. Seeing this, Yang Lan smiled gently. "Director Lu, I will be ready to resign today." Squeak. The door of the conference room was pushed open, and Han Qian showed his bandaged head and asked cowardly. "Didn't you hear me knocking on the door? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 240. Does this guy know what the rules are, and does he know the company's procedures? He interrupted a high-level meeting twice as an employee. But no one thought this was unexpected or unacceptable. Because this guy is Han Qian, the little bully of the general department. Extremely violent tendencies. Privately, everyone in the company said that you can quarrel with Mr. Yan, but you can't talk to Han Qian. If you disagree, you may be beaten to death. This guy has never been healthy since the day he came to work. He didn't hear Yang Lan finish his words both times. Lu Shenge was already in a bad mood. He looked at Han Qian sideways and frowned. "Are you worthy?" Han Qian opened the door and walked into the conference room, strode behind Lu Zhuolong and Yang Lan, stretched out his hands to hold their shoulders and pressed them into the chairs, and then smiled at Lu Shenge. "You decide whether I am worthy or not. Are you worthy too?" Everyone in the conference room turned ugly. Yan Qingqing's eyes were about to burst into flames, while Qian Ling had already stood up. The expected angry roar did not appear. Lu Shenge licked the corners of his mouth and looked at Han Qian with a smile. "I am the largest shareholder of this company. Do you think I am worthy?" Han Qian. Han Qian raised his head and chuckled. "I'm not your employee. Can you tell me whether I am worthy of being used?" Lu Shenge. This time it was Lu Shenge's turn to be confused, tilting his head and smiling with narrowed eyes. "Why are you in the company if you're not an employee? I can ask the security guards to throw you out, or I can sue you for eavesdropping on company secrets." Han Qian was not nervous at all. He had already thought about what to say. He would say that he was Yan Qingqing's employee. This time it was his turn and he had no chance to speak. Yang Lan stopped and said softly. Director Liu, Han Qian is indeed not an employee of the company. His contract is not an employment, but a cooperation contract. He is just cooperating with everyone in the general department. Han Qian was confused. He lowered his head and looked at Yang Ian's head. Cooperation contract? At first, Yan Qingqing said it was a replacement, but she didn't look carefully. Lu Shenga said softly and calmly. The cooperative relationship cannot enter the meeting room without permission. Let's terminate the contract now. No. No. Yan Qingqing and Gao Jingcheng objected at the same time, which made everyone who was doing it confused. Qian Ling had already walked to Han Qian's side and raised her hand. Everyone's eyes were full of confusion, including Lu Shenga. Yan Qingqing was not nervous this time. She felt that the femininity around her had completely disappeared. When Han Qian walked in, she was full of courage, stood up and said softly. Director Liu, it would be better for us not to terminate the contract with Han Qian now. Lu Shenga said indifferently. The reasons cannot convince me, so you are ready to pack your things and follow me. Yan Qingqing lowered her head and said in a deep voice. The city is planning to develop more than 300,000 square meters of land in the East City to become a residential area for the city's main residents. Any company inside or outside the city that wants to develop this land must first obtain Han Qian's consent. Enjoy it there as well. After receiving the news, we have started negotiating with the Yamanmen. As competitors, we cannot fall behind Changxiang. And now that Han Qian and Honor are cooperating, we Honor can choose the best location and construction area, and give priority to an opportunity to negotiate at the Yamen gate. Everyone's eyes were still full of doubts, but this time they were looking at Han Qian. Even Qian Ling tilted her head and looked at Han Qian, a little confused, while Ji Jing's eyes burst out with brilliant light. Don't hide your love for this man. Real estate development. This is the most profitable business at the moment, with a guaranteed profit and no loss. You take money from the bank for construction and then pay it back. If it fails, you just use the house to pay off the debt. Moreover, with the cooperation of the Yamanmen and the best geographical location, how can this business be successful? There will be no loss. Lu Shenga doesn't want to make money, and his firing of the company's employees will have no impact on the other two shareholders, but if it affects everyone else's money, you won't be able to do it even if you are a living father, especially Qian Ling. This woman's goal in life now is to make money. Lu Shenga hesitated. Although he had veto power, he didn't want to break up with Qian Ling because of this matter. It's an accident, it's a variable. Lu Shenga discovered one thing. This Han Qian seemed to have no rules and was someone who couldn't use common sense to examine. The two of them had very similar personalities, but they were opposites. He looked Han Qian up and down without rushing. Open your mouth. Regarding Yan Qingqing's boldness, Han Qian felt nervous for her. Sister, I haven't told Cheng Jin that I agreed yet, can you please stop trusting me so much? Dude, it's a lot of pressure. Han Qian didn't dwell on the matter, patted Lu Zhulong's shoulder gently, bent down, and whispered in Yang Ian's ear. Why resign? This time I will protect you just like you protected me last time. Last time? The time you drank? Yang Lan nodded with peace of mind. Han Qian just straightened up and felt pain in his ears. Qian Ling grabbed Han Qian's ears and scolded him. You still want to hide it from me? If Qingqing hadn't said it, wouldn't you have planned to let me know about it? Did you give it to Qingqing as a gift again? With your relationship with Qingqing, how can Cheng Jin not give you a favor? Auntie, it hurts, how dare I hide it from you? Aren't I anxious to come here to learn from you? I have asked Suliang to start planning. I don't know anything about real estate. Humph, I'll spare you for once and go home to cook dinner tonight. Okay, okay, it's your decision. Qianling took the initiative to back up Han Qian, tugged his ears, called aunt, and went to cook at home. These words were very simple, but they were not simple in other people's ears. Han Qian was Qianling's nephew. Everyone knows that director Qian has no child, and the one she loves most now is her niece, but this niece is not very lively. Is Han Daxiani the nephew of director Qian? Mom. Isn't this a powerful alliance, a powerful alliance? There are 3 women in the conference room whose eyes have never left Han Qian. With Yan Qingqing's trust, Yang Yian's doting, and Ji Jing's love, Han Qian has become the protagonist of the conference room. But Lu Shenge still had some doubts, so he whispered to Yan Qingqing. Maybe you don't understand me yet. I won't believe anything that I'm not absolutely sure of. Your words are not convincing. Who knows if he is cheating? After saying this, someone agreed again. Han Qian turned his head to look at Lu Shenge and curled his lips. Want to confirm? Wait for me to make a call. Waiting for good news. Lu Shenge shrugged and laughed. Han Qian took out his mobile phone and called Cheng Jin, just 4 words. Where's my secretary? Less than 10 minutes after hanging up the phone, the door of the honor conference room was pushed open, and an eye-catching girl wearing a white OL uniform pushed open the door and walked into the conference room. She glanced at everyone in the conference room with a cold look and a disdainful sneer on her lips. I am Cai Qinghu, the secretary at the Yamen Gate and the real-life assistant of Mr. Han. Do you have any opinions? Or, who dares to have any opinions? After the divorce, the ex-wife became a creditor. Author, Ahuan. Chapter 241. She is about 1.7 meters tall, wearing a pair of 4-5 centimeters high heels, wearing a white uniform with white stockings, wearing glasses, and holding a stack of documents in her hand. This sister is very dashing. Also very domineering. After she took out her work ID and showed it to everyone, no one dared to doubt this woman's identity. Han Qian looked at Cai Qinghu with a confused look, then took out his mobile phone to call Cheng Jin. His first words after the call were direct and cordial. Cheng Jin, I'm going to hum your grandma. Cheng Jin on the other side of the phone chuckled evilly. Are you satisfied? Snapped. Han Qian hung up the phone directly, waved his hand to Cai Qinghu irritably, and said with disgust. Go, 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 let Cheng Jin bring me another man. Cai Qinghu bent slightly towards Han Qian and said softly. Okay, boss. After saying this, the woman turned and left the conference room. Lu Shenge felt bad all over. He felt very uncomfortable all over his body. Why was everything different from what he thought? This was the glory, his glory, and he was the one. God is right. Where the hell did this Han Qian come from? Lu Shenge took 2 deep breaths. With the secretary of the provincial party committee here, he really couldn't swagger to touch Han Qian, and he didn't dare to target him. The real estate people thought he was being messed up. Shareholders and executives were worried about this. He will have great opinions. Although he said he didn't want to make money, he didn't want to cause any conflicts with the Yeomanmen. He is rich and his family is relatively powerful, but he is in business after all. Cai Qinghu, secretary of the provincial party committee, makes Lu Shenge reluctant to act rashly, but this does not mean that he does not want to play. Lu Shenge smiled, stood up, straightened his clothes, and said with a smile. Han Qian, I hope you won't make me lose interest too quickly. I'm not very interested in men. The meeting was over. Lu Shenge came over to show his face and show off his power. Unfortunately, he failed. Han Qian's appearance disrupted all his opportunities. Lu Shenge left, and Han Qian was too lazy to talk to Li Dehai. He faced Gao Dehai. Fulfillment whistled. I will give you the lighter tomorrow. It has not been used once and is well preserved. Gao Xing'ai smiled lightly. Just take it. Qianling also stood up and left the conference room. Before leaving, she told Han Qian not to go there at night, and then lead a high. Han Qian didn't even look at him. Most of the people in the conference room had left, and the rest were with Han Qian. Someone who is very close to me. At this time, Yan Qingqing asked Han Qian in confusion why he came over suddenly. Han Qian tilted his head and asked in confusion, didn't she ask him to come? After the conversation between the two, the answer came out. Yang Lan said to go back and beat the child, and strode out of the conference room. Seeing Yang Ian's menacing look, Han Qian ran away. Little Yang Jia might be beaten to death. He comforted and interceded with little Yang Jia all the way back to the general department. When he walked into the general department, Han Qian's table was filled with snacks, and there was also a soft Chinese flower tied with a red ribbon. Little Yang Jia looked like the children who made mistakes stood aside, and the atmosphere in the entire general department was tense. Yang Lan strode forward and raised his hand and slapped him in the face. Little Yang Jia's body tilted due to the slap. When Yang Lan raised his hand to slap him a second time, Han Qian rushed forward and stood in front of little Yang Jia. In front of him, he frowned. Sister Yang, it would be better if little Yang Jia had a wrong education. How can you hit someone? Yang Jia, why don't you apologize to your sister? Little Yang Jia knew that she had done something wrong. She covered her face and lowered her head but did not speak. This stubborn look made Han Qian look too anxious. He was exactly the same as when he was a child. He spoke harshly even when he knew he was wrong. This was the most annoying thing. Really? Yang Lan reached out and grabbed Han Qian's shoulders and said angrily. Get out of my way. No. I won't let you go. Hit me first. People have already bought me cigarettes. I'm trying to take advantage of them. Yang Lan was so angry that his face turned pale. He turned his head and gave Lu Zhuolong a look. The guy trotted outside and closed the door. He stood outside the door worried that someone would come to watch the fun. Then Yang Ian's hysterical roar came to him. In the ears. Are you still protecting her? Do you know that he lied to you? Have you ever thought about the consequences for you? Yang Jia, come here. You are thinking very well and are worried that I will be bullied, but have you ever thought about Han what will happen to Qian? Do you know who the people in the conference room are? I can forgive you for everything you do, but how can you deceive the person who trusts you the most? You will have nothing to do with me in the future, and I will not a sister like you. I don't do it for you. When I came this morning, someone told me that the meeting was just for you. I am your sister. If I don't worry about you, who would worry about you? I have no ability, I don't know people, I only know Han Qian, I only think that Han Qian can protect you. If I am wrong, I will apologize to Han Qian. It's okay to kneel down or kowtow, but you have no right to criticize me. Snapped. Another slap in the face, and then little Yang Jia ran out of the general department. Yang Lan was so angry that she breathed rapidly, covered her head and sat on the chair, lowered her head and whispered softly. Han Qian, help me look at her and don't let anything happen to her. After all, she is her biological sister. How can she not feel sorry for the sister? How can she not know how good the sister is to her? Han Qian sighed, nodded to the big guys in the general department, and then trotted out of the general department to chase Yang Jia. After Han Qian left the general department, Yang Lan covered her face and burst into tears. She regretted slapping Yang Jia twice. Sul Yang held the phone and was ready to dial 120 at any time. Qianwan and Shan Shan comforted Yang Lan, and the others were busy passing out tissues. Without everyone talking, it would be a mess. Downstairs in the company, little Yang Jia squatted on the flower bed and stuffed snacks into her mouth, crying while eating. Han Qian stood aside with a glass of coke in his hand, and little Yang Jia raised her head and grinned and cried. Brother Qian, I know I was wrong, hiccup, but I really have no hiccup, anyway. In my heart you, hiccup, are the best, hiccup, I'll drink some first is water okay. Han Qian couldn't help but handed the coke to Xiao Yang Jia and said with a wry smile. Don't cry. Sister Yang is also angry. I'll just slap you twice. You are thick-skinned anyway, so you don't have to worry or feel guilty. I came to the company and heard that someone was going to attack Sister Yang, even if you didn't say it. If Mr. Yang comes to find me, I will find a reason to go there, okay, okay. What you did is right, but if you do it in the wrong way, you will definitely be punished. Little Yang Jia continued to cry after drinking the coke. Wow, Brother Qian, my sister's life is miserable. That man can do domestic violence. He will beat my sister when he drinks. My sister still doesn't dare to resist. After all these years, when did this man die? Relief, I don't want her to be bullied anymore, wow. Han Qian sighed, stretched out his hand to pinch Yang Jia's face, pointed at the candle opposite and smiled. Stop crying, I'll take you to buy hamburgers. Don't listen to your sister. She has long hair and short knowledge. She knows nothing. If you have anything to do, tell me. If you call her sister, call me brother, isn't your sister? My sister? From now on, I will protect her and Xiao Baibei until she meets someone worthy of her life. If anyone dares to hit her, I will chop off his claws. Wow, Brother Qian, you are the best, but I want to eat cod burger. Eat. Eat too. After taking little Yang Jia to buy a burger, the little girl stopped crying and returned to the company with the burger and coke. She probably didn't know that Yan Qingqing would be waiting to deal with her, and Han Qian would not protect her. Family conflicts can be resolved, but making mistakes at work is a mistake. Standing downstairs in the company, Han Qian squinted and took a deep breath. He took out a cigarette and put it in his mouth. He reached for it and found that the lighter was missing. He bought it for 2 yuan. It belongs to a beautiful girl. He closed his eyes again and sighed. When he was about to take down the cigarette, the sound of a lighter came into his ears. Han Qian opened his eyes and looked at the woman who suddenly appeared. He lit the cigarette and frowned. Didn't I ask you to go back and find Cheng Jin for someone else? Cai Qinghu put away the lighter and said indifferently. It doesn't matter who I am as secretary, Cheng Jin. The Yamanmen are very suspicious of Feng Lun's affairs. I came here to keep an eye on you and to make those who are planning to attack you be more honest. Boss. Cooperate. Cooperate with the work and make a living. Seeing Cai Qinghu sighing, Han Qian curled his lips. Does the life assistant have a warm bed? Cai Qinghu turned his head and narrowed his eyes and smiled. Isn't the warmth for you? If not, there is Yan Qingqing, the Empress of the West Palace, by the way. There is also the obedient little Jijing, and nursery rhymes are also fine. You stay away from Guandegu from now on. Well, Yang Lan is a miserable woman. Her man is still in jail and has no intention of repenting. Do you want me to help cancel their marriage? Are you so capable? It should still be possible. Then you can research and find a secretary for me. That's impossible, Han Qian. Cai Qinghu looked at Han Qian's back with murderous eyes. This guy actually touched her leg and ran away. Han Qian waved to Cai Qinghu and said calmly. Don't wear stockings in front of me in the future. I won't be able to help but touch them. Go back and find a man instead. I like men better. You are delusional. If my sister doesn't find evidence of your crime, my surname is not Cai. I don't want to add you to my family tree.